Welcome, everyone, to this episode of your Freedom Hub's Accelerating Financial Freedom. This is your chance to set yourself free financially, and no one usually has that opportunity, so you're in luck today. We are recording all of these for posterity, so we definitely want to make sure you come back and check them out. It's going to be pretty important. We've got a fantastic guest along with us tonight. Sam's here once again from the Debt Network Academy. And just to show you where our house is for him is when you're coming to the website, as we indicated before, and you come over here to the Wealth tab, that's Sam's home. And you click on, I'm sorry, let me back up for 1 minute. I wanted to show you how we present the thing. So if we come to the Webinar tab, and then come here, I was doing that out of sequence, I apologize. We have some other shows, but then if we scroll down a little bit, here's the whole series pertinent to these. And it gives you a chance to sign up and register for them and shows you what the upcoming event is. So here we are for November 19th. And then, in fact, if you do click on the Wealth tab, as I started to do prematurely, it gives you the whole rundown, the importance of having a map. It was the beginnings of our series. What would you do if your money could talk, and would you actually listen to it? And then there's going to be a chance for you to participate. And then here's a repeat of the information. And then lo and behold, here are some of the past videos. There's some really great ones you're going to definitely want to take advantage of. So on that note, we are going to flick gears and let Sam take control of the screen.
All right. Well, thank you, Jeff. I'm excited to be here again. We've had some very interesting workshops in the past 6 weeks. This one is just a little bit more personal to me because back in 1990, I was hired as the one of 100 estate planning specialists for Merrill Lynch in Red Bank, New Jersey. And I traveled every day from New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Connecticut, just like I was going for ice cream for my kids. Never really thought about it. But the point I'm making is it was one of the greatest experiences in my career. I left there in order to get my kids into a really great college, basically financially, because I moved to South Carolina, Hilton Head, and all of them were residents. And we got really a great time. I got to know my kids again. And so during that time, the experience that I got with the professionals, Merrill Lynch at that time was one of the top. They had over 14,000 agents, brokers. And one of the things we worked with as a specialist is attorneys and CPAs. Every week we had a referral network because we didn't do the actual documents. But I found horror shows visiting people worth 1 million to 20 million, where they all said, we already have it, and they never even implemented it. So to move on, tonight we're going to talk about basically how you can control your own destiny, not only in using the software with the Debt Network Academy financially, however, with your own wills and trusts in the cloud. So what's in your estate plan? Is it time to rethink it? You know, this COVID-19, people are leaving for the hospital and not coming out. And you wonder, it's instantly like that. In fact, right here on Hilton Head, one of the good friends of ours, his mom came to see him from Florida 5 weeks ago. She didn't realize she was carrying it. She was 78 years old, actually 82 years old. She stayed with them for 10 days, got sick. He took her to the hospital. She died in the hospital on Hilton Head. Think about that. So who even thinks about their wills and their trusts? We all think it's not going to happen to us. So one of the things we tried to do in our planning is to find technology. We found it in the Debt Network Academy for how to manage your cash flow, your debt, and build wealth. And lo and behold, in 2017, I ran into a referral, a national organization that's been around since 1985. I went through some interviews, and bingo, they said, we need you to represent us. And so I changed my entire estate plan. I also created a team. Janice Capote is my partner, and we are called the Care Financial Team. So if you're in good health, okay, we're going to show you some things about living benefit life. And Jan specifically handles our health sharing specialist area. And she does that along with Jeff and his team. And I handle basically the estate planning in the cloud, obviously, from the debt network, cash flow analysis, et cetera. So let's talk about living trusts and living benefits. They're not only about dying. This is very confusing because that's the perception that the middle America claims that, I don't plan on dying, so what do I need a will for? And what good are living benefits, and what are they? I'm going to really try to accelerate in some of this. So we found that 70% of our course clients have an old will or one that's from another state. They never updated it for the new resident state, and they didn't have a living trust. They really think it's an irrevocable trust. An irrevocable trust is a whole different business, and it's not really the same at all with a living trust. But I found that during these course clients over 90 days, it was either procrastination, misconceptions mostly. They felt it was a difficult process. Contact an attorney, wait for appointments, back and forth, drafts of the documents, and number 3 or 4, costly. Experience at Merrill Lynch Bank and Trust from 1990 to 94 gave me a great insight. I was dealing with wealthy clients. Assets were greater than $1 million, which was our minimum, to $20 million. And the key I found is they had living trusts. One problem, there was nothing in them. So the attorney drafted this 32-page, 60-page document and never helped them set up and put assets in the trust. And so as a Merrill Lynch executive, if you will, I was there to help them. Let me help you implement it. And they wound up moving assets into Merrill Lynch with the broker that referred me. So this is not about age or only when you're reaching 65. If you go in and look up famous people that died like in a day, whether it was plane crashes or whatever, you'll find a lot of them didn't even have an estate plan because procrastination, and it's not going to happen to me. So what's the Care Financial team all about? We provide education and updates, free analyses, not only in the cash flow, but also comparisons and mentoring in other areas. So the first thing we always talk about is our DNA worksheet and analysis. And you can see that on our website, which is Health, Wealth, and Freedom, which you'll catch a little later at the end of this program. So we start with cash flow management. Most people start with what are your assets? What's in your IRA? What's in your stock portfolio? We don't start there. We start with what's your cash flow, your true cost of debt, and why. And then we actually provide an asset legacy for insurance. It's amazing how many people do not understand what living benefits life insurance is all about. In fact, we were discussing today how we can synergize the living benefit term insurance with one of the health savings accounts or health matching accounts that Jeff and his team provide. And third, we just did a program on, is your residence in your retirement plan up to $500,000 tax-free? And people lose sight of that. In fact, it takes people a long time to get a home because of costs, qualifying, their credit scores, and so they keep renting for years. Big mistake. And we can help just getting started on the debt network analysis. And then the last thing of our care plan is estate transfer strategies. Can you design and activate your wills, your trusts, all powers of attorney on your own in the cloud without an attorney? Yes, you can. So first of all, you have to accept the problem, all right? Because if you accept the problem, you will find the solution. And wills and trusts in the cloud are something very few people, although the company that we work with has over 17,000 estate plans that they've done in the cloud. May not sound like a lot, but that is a lot of plans for one organization. So what's the problem? Dying intestate, owning property in other states, We on Hilton Head, we have clients that live in Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, Florida, Tennessee, Oregon, and they own condos and rent them out and vacation for the summer and then rent them out. As soon as you have property in another state, you have to probate that state if you die. Well, you don't probate it. Your family, your executrix or executor has to handle all that. Some of the clients we've had in the past few years have 4 properties in 3 states. Imagine that. The heirs would have to probate every state unless they have a living trust. So who has the problem? Everyone. Well, heirs, it's an heir's nightmare when a client or their family has no will. Why should this problem be solved? Well, it's really a simpler process with this in the cloud. It's easy to make changes and you access it 24/7, in fact, worldwide, excuse me. How can I solve this cost effectively? Well, to create a full estate plan, typically it runs anywhere from $3,000 to $8,000, depending on where you are, such as New York, how many visits with an attorney. Now, I'm not trying to talk against attorneys, and I'm not giving legal advice. I'm showing a program that is built and designed by attorneys, and they call it Wills and Trusts in the cloud. It's an e-estate plan. So basically, this package is a one-time cost. It's under $1,700, and you have worldwide access to make changes, and I'll get to that in a few seconds. Plus, there's an annual membership fee of only $95 a year to make 100, 200 changes. It doesn't matter. And you also do have access to their internal attorneys should you need it. So let's take the challenge. It won't happen to me. Let me give you 3 scenarios of existing clients of mine. The one on reality number 1. This was in 1987. I just sold my brokerage firm, and across the hall was a dentist, very successful. And story short, he said no. And I said, I'd love to get together with you. There's no cost. And so after work one day, I went over to his office across the hall. Bottom line was, I handled everything for him. I referred him. I didn't have this package. I referred him to a local estate attorney that I was dealing with back in 1987. And in fact, he's written many books. His name was Jeff Snepper. And I helped him set this all up. Now, this is really a very scary thing, but this is reality. And it answers the question, it won't happen to me. So they went out for dinner, and make a long story short, it was late at night. The restaurant I used to go to with my wife has a ramp for boats right in the parking lot. It's very dangerous. I always parked on the other side. But whatever happened, he backed down the ramp, and they drowned in the car.
Oh, dear God.
And this is a true story. You can't make this up. Okay, this is reality. And it was amazing. I had sold them a $500,000 term just like less than a year. And I also put together a buy-sell agreement so that his spouse, if he died, his spouse would get $250,000 and the other dentist partner would own the practice. And they were just paying pennies on the dollar. Well, it's amazing that all of this money now went into a trust instead of the spouse. The spouse died with the husband. And so he had children, and again, his sister was the trustee, and I don't know the end result, but I know this, that the comfort level he had. Now, this was just a phenomenal story. The second reality one that I always remember is an optometrist in New York, in the city, and he lived in Jersey, in Saddlebrook area. And he had health issues. I was referred to him. This is prior to Merrill Lynch. I was referred to him, and I talked to him, and I said, why don't you just apply? Let's see how your health is. There's no cost to take a medical. He said, well, I've had some heart problems, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, okay, well, it's not going to cost you. Why not give it a try? He said, you know what? I'll do that. So he took an application. They underwrote it. He had 3 different doctors. It took us 3 months. He got approved with a rating. It's called a premium. that they gave him the insurance, but he had to pay 3 times the normal premium. Well, he wanted the insurance. And he said, if your company will give it, it happened to be Transamerica, by the way, and they gave him the policy. Make a long story short, 18 months later, he had a heart not a repair, some simple thing, and he had a brain aneurysm in the operating room and died. And it was 18 months after. And do you know that during that 18 months, not only did I set up the insurance, but we created a trust. And I worked with this client for so long with no fees, except he bought the insurance from me. In this case, his spouse received the $500,000. He had one son at the time. And so the value added to this is you must face reality. It doesn't mean you're going to die tomorrow, but we all have to deal with this. And if you can do it simpler and less expensive, why not? And lastly was this particular one on the left. So I don't have to get into that. So I talked about that. And so I moved on and I created this picture and said, look, you can just go to Staples. Go to Staples and get a will. They have a power of attorney. They have a health. They're like $30 each. You fill them out and put them in the drawer. It's not going to help you. The only way to do this is through our in the cloud software. We now have created a 72-hour tryout. Try it. You'll like it. We've created this with the help of the national company. So this is pretty cool. Even if you don't want to do it, why not try it? It's free. We actually set it up. You take a look at it. We show you the documents. There's no commitment. And at the end of 72 hours, you make a decision if you want it or not. Now, we're doing this for Health, Wealth, Freedom, our organization. And if you'd like to take a shot at that, this is what, on the right side, this is what, let me go back. Well, this is what when you open up the software package, you have a client, advisor, trustee, attorney, and attending physician login access. Imagine if you do have a regular physician, like a lot of people do, you can just give them an access code and they can upload anything they need for themselves, such as a healthcare power of attorney. They can't change anything. So this is very powerful. So let me just basically give you 2 testimonials, one of which is with us at the moment. And this is what I would basically say. And I'd say is with us. And she's in New York and she has a sub-S company. She owns a big company for 30 some odd years. And she invested in the 90-day course, and we worked together over 90 days, and we found out that there were a lot of missing links in her financial plan. And so she wound up taking the in the cloud estate planning process or program, and we have worked together for now over 2 years, and it's really been exciting. And Ellen, I think Ellen's on the phone with us. Are you there, Ellen?
Yes, I am.
Well, thank you for joining us. It's pretty exciting. I'm not sure how you feel, but every time I do something like this, I get excited myself, and I changed my own wills and trust into this program. And why would I do that? Because it works. So how do you feel about having the control and the comfort level of being able to control exactly what you want to do, when you want it, where you want it in your estate plan?
Yeah, it's the first thing I want to say is that does this all sound too good to be true? Because in the beginning, as far as I was concerned, that's how I felt. I found this program through a long-term business associate who called me as a raving fan. And I probably would have found myself looking beyond it if it was not for that person. And the reason why is because all the years that I've been in business, I've worked with what I was considering trusted advisors, lawyers, accountants, other financial advisors who really were not serving me well. And it wasn't until I really started to look under the hood that I realized that I really was not getting the right guidance. Years of anxiety, not knowing, not receiving the right guidance, many hours of feeling disappointed, feeling scarcity, and feeling at risk until I found myself looking under the hood at this program. I didn't realize that eliminating my debt was easier and faster than I imagined. That my insurance, that I thought was at least one of the pillars, was not really working on my behalf. I learned that the cash value in my policy was basically being controlled by the insurance company and not me. That was an eye-opener. And the perception of a trust, in my mind, was basically for other people. In other words, it didn't apply to me because my situation was not organized. It wasn't appropriate. And I learned, even though I only have one child, that I have made my situation much more organized, simplified. My son will thank me when I'm gone, because for the small investment that I've made, I sleep at night now. My affairs are in order. I can go in and change whatever I need to change at my will, and not the will of waiting for an accountant or a lawyer who basically would be overcharging me in most cases, even if I could get them to give me the advice that I thought I was getting that was really not very appropriate for me anyway. This has really been a priceless experience, and I really highly recommend anybody to try it and to see what you don't know that you should know.
That's excellent. Well, thank you so much, Ellen. I really appreciate your sincere comments. And we are working together in so many areas. And after 47 years, you're getting the advantage in a short time that I spent 47 years getting knocked around by other professionals thinking that they knew more than I did. But I'm constantly trying to research to help our clients and any referrals, and putting the client first. So thank you for that. And I appreciate you attending. Talk to you soon. So what are your results? Solve estate plan needs. Anyone, any state, $95 a year membership. It includes durable power of attorney for healthcare, living wills, electronic advanced medical directive, a HIPAA medical privacy statement. If you're in the medical field and nurses, you're going to know about that. Durable agent notices for healthcare. Electronic signatures are legal. Electronic advanced medical directive. A dynamic revocable living trust. Key word, it's revocable. You can change it. Change your trustees. We just added 2 trustees for one of the grandchildren of my client in Pennsylvania. We just changed because they wanted to have more than one, because she has a special needs child. Supplemental admin documents, et cetera, et cetera. This is an incredible program for a flat $95 a year membership, 24/7. So we provide, let me just recap, all of this free analysis, comparisons, and mentoring. We know what we're doing. We know we can help. We have many testimonials and people referring us every week. So I'm going to move on now to living benefits. Jeff, do you have any questions on this healthcare power of attorney that's provided in here?
No, although you showed that there were 3 options there in that one slide before, and in reality, there's 4 options. That's the one little error I was going to point out there. Not on that, the one where you said, take 3 steps.
Oh, yes. That's because, yes, and I recall what you're talking about. Yes, there's actually, sorry about counting that incorrectly. I added 2 more that were there.
Well, and the one you didn't mention was the fact that you could do nothing.
Well, that's true.
And guess what?
Thank you for that.
And you know what? Doing nothing is as big and as major of a choice as any of the ones you did show.
No, absolutely. That's a great point. Thank you for that. So let's see. So there's 4, there's 5. And it's really helpful to understand, and the comfort level that people are getting by setting this up is amazing. And you can have an attorney review. It's designed by an attorney. It's not boilerplate. There are things that you change and add. It's just incredible. I've never seen anything like it, which is why I did it myself. Okay, so let's move on to the living benefits. This is so important. I actually talked to Jane earlier today about this, and she uniquely saw the perception of having a health matching account with a term plan having this. And we had a nice discussion today. Jane may make a comment today. Jan's my partner. Sorry for that. Okay, so what are accelerated benefits? These are, if you have chronic or critical illnesses, if you're terminally ill, but you didn't die. Give you a quick example. My dad was diagnosed with prostate cancer in 1991. They said he could live a year or two. He lived 6 months. Terminal. He could have accessed, of course, they didn't have such a thing. The whole program is only 8 years old. It's now accelerated into really diversification. The company that we represent, which I don't want to mention names right now, but they have 4 riders. Other companies have either terminal or chronic, but not critical and injury. So imagine if you could access up to 90% of your term death benefit while you're alive. Imagine the things you could accomplish with that and help you and your spouse, whether it was a trip, whether it was paying down debt, but being alive to see what happened. It's not a fun thing. And being a nurse, Jane knows it's not a fun thing when someone's terminally or chronically ill. However, they've added critical illness. And if you look at this, it includes all kinds of aorta graft surgery, blindness, cancer, cystic fibrosis, dialysis, renal end-stage renal failure, heart attack, heart valve replacements, major organ transplants, et cetera, et cetera. If you have any of those conditions and you fill out the form, not you, your medical team, all 3 doctors, all 1 doctor, whoever is handling you, fills out the form. It's sent to the company. The company has a medical board. They evaluate keyword. They evaluate the severity of your illness. Example, my dad's diagnosis was actually terminal, but the doctor didn't want to acknowledge that to my mom until I pressured him, because he kept telling her, well, he could live for 2 years, et cetera. I pressured him and he said, okay, he probably will live 6 months. Amazing. So having access, and this is term insurance. This is not cash value insurance. It is a great package for especially young people who really don't even carry health insurance if they don't have to, because they feel it's not going to happen to me. But this is, you can get up to $1 million of coverage. The minimum's $100,000. 90% of that is $90,000 that you could access while you're alive. And then obviously it's taken from the face amount. So after, if you died, the balance goes to you already took it. So that's understandable. But critical illness and now critical injury, if you're in a coma from an accident or you're paralyzed, there's a complete list of qualified events that come with the policy. And I've had people, I was in a car accident in 1991. It's one of the reasons, 1993. And I was out for 6 months. Now, I didn't die, thankfully, but I was injured critically. And I finally went back out after 6 months. And of course, I had $1 million a term back then, but it didn't have this product. So this is something that we are adding to our trust services, is a comparison. As I stated earlier, Jan is our managing general agent on our care team. We provide illustrations, comparisons. We've got licensed in Connecticut, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Michigan, Missouri, New York, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and we just recently added Ohio, Jeff. And she also is a health sharing specialist. That's another area that when we do our 90-day course, we do some free analysis on your health care. And then, of course, yours truly, as you know, the services I provide. So with that, if anybody has any questions, Jane, if you're still there.
Hey, Sam, I am.
If you could give us just a highlight on what we were discussing this afternoon, I thought that was a great insight to what you see between that health matching and also the living benefit term.
Yeah, I mean, I think that what's difficult is we're all kind of pegged into one model, which is we need to have health insurance. You know, that's our best way to protect our future. But there's many people I know in my world that don't have any interest in using health insurance whatsoever. You know, we barely go to a doctor. The only reason we would ever do so is in an emergency. So that, in a sense, takes us down two roads that we could either go for catastrophic health insurance, or maybe, you know, there's another alternative, which is term insurance with living benefits. Because in some ways, and in some cases, that could provide somewhat of the same coverage that, you know, catastrophic benefits does. So I think that's something that's worth exploring. And I think between you and Jeff, you can cover pretty much the whole spectrum of people, where they are and what they believe and think. So that's one aspect of what we covered, but I just want to cover another aspect as well, which is, you know, when you were talking about earlier on about estate planning, about how, you know, all these different scenarios. And I think what's so difficult for people is we never think that something bad is going to happen to us. And that level of procrastination is always prevalent. So as an example, it was St. Patrick's Day of 2019. And my husband and I, we were, you know, celebrating St. Patty's Day and just talking about all the grateful things that we have in our life and, you know, all the blessings that we've had. But we also talked about how outdated our will was. We had set it up through like a Susie Orman program years before. And we had talked about, you know, how we should create a living trust. And the next day, my husband got run over and had catastrophic injuries. He, you know, had punctured lung pneumothorax, several fractures, rib fractures, degloving of his hip, his knees, tib-fib fracture, derangement of both knees. And I mean, it was pretty severe, yet, you know, here we are, he's doing great. We're, you know, a year plus out of that, a year and a half out of that. And have we done anything that we said the night before that happened? We haven't. And so, I mean, I just think that we take for granted sometimes how vulnerable we can be, and in an instant things can change. So your program is just such a living proof of what we can do, and that it's not that expensive. And if we just invest and kind of put forth what we intend to do, you know, you can take the fear out of that for us. So I appreciate that.
That's right. Excellent. And that's an amazing story. It's similar to the dentist and his wife who drowned going to dinner. And so you need to really sit down and set a priority, because, you know, healthcare power of attorney is one thing, but actually establishing the living trust and putting assets in it and creating a successor trustee is not difficult when it's in the cloud. It's prompted. It's not boilerplate either. It's really interesting how this ITS Trust company has set this up. So I would challenge you to take the 72-hour test. There's no charge.
And you know what's interesting about that, Sam, is I'm very resistant of anything in the cloud. I'm not a fan of the cloud whatsoever, but I can see this is the one instance where the cloud actually could be really beneficial for people, because, you know, when you're trying to access something and you have to physically put your hand on it, but you're not where somebody else is, this is the one time I think the cloud could actually truly be of a benefit to people. So.
This is Jeff chiming in there. It's a good corollary to in that health program that Sam's referenced a couple of times, what we incorporate, which is that in the cloud medical vault. Because similarly, if you're traveling to Mexico and you get hit by a car, where are your medical records? All right, and that was a great little commentary, so I do appreciate that. But as you can see, for everyone that's watching and listening, that you're going to want to take advantage of getting a little snapshot of your world. And it's so simple because you don't have to do much, and the price is right, which is zero. And anything you do see that you think might be interesting, you get to test drive it for a little bit too. So the way you do that is you get yourself back over to the marketplace site up on that wealth tab, and you can click right here to get a little free analysis form, or you scroll on down past the stuff we looked at a little bit before, and boom, there's your little button. You click on that, and the next thing you know, you get a little online form that you're able to complete. You fill in all these various fields and save it, and then email it right back to the address at the top. And the next thing you know, you're going to get a nice little analysis to see exactly where you are and maybe what you might want to start to do beginning immediately. So Sam, I want to thank you so much for being here today.
Okay, and Jeff, one more comment. No social security numbers, no account numbers, just the math, right from the statement.
Perfect.